Before we jump into this intense courtroom showdown, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. You won't want to miss the truth that's about to be revealed. Now, let's get right into the heart of the battle. The room is heavy with anticipation as Chief Justice John Roberts takes center stage. His voice cuts through the silence with a tone sharp and deliberate. Ms. Crockett, your legal career has been unconventional, to say the least. He leans forward slightly, eyes narrowing as he addresses her directly. While many of my colleagues have followed a traditional path, graduating from Ivy League institutions and clerking for the highest courts, you have carved a different route. It begs the question, are you truly prepared to meet the rigorous demands of this court? Roberts pauses, scanning the courtroom as murmurs ripple through the crowd. The bench requires a depth of experience and a pedigree that reflects years of dedication and a proven track record in the most challenging legal arenas. How does your career measure up to this standard? The air grows thick with tension as all eyes fix on Jasmine Crockett. Her posture is firm, her expression calm yet resolute. This moment is a test, a challenge thrown at her by one of the most powerful figures in the judiciary. But Jasmine is no stranger to adversity. Roberts continues, "This is not intended as a slight, but a statement of fact. The weight of the law demands judges whose backgrounds inspire confidence, not just in their peers, but in the public they serve. Your unconventional path raises questions about your readiness." The murmurs intensify. The challenge is clear. Roberts has cast doubt on Jasmine's qualifications in front of the nation. Yet beneath her composed exterior, Jasmine's determination burns brighter than ever. The stage is set for a confrontation that will not only test her legal prowess, but challenge the very definition of what it means to be a judge in today's world. Jasmine meets Judge Roberts's gaze steadily, her voice calm but charged with conviction. "Your Honor, I appreciate the concern regarding my background, but I stand here not just as a product of my education, but as a testament to the work I have done, day in and day out, for the people who have nowhere else to turn." She pauses briefly, allowing her words to sink in. "My path may not mirror that of others on this bench. I did not graduate from an Ivy League school, nor did I clerk for a Supreme Court justice. What I did was stand in courtrooms across this country, defending tenants facing eviction, fighting for equal pay for women, and demanding justice for those the system has forgotten." Jasmine's tone sharpens. Experience is not defined by the name on a diploma or the prestige of the firm you worked for. It is defined by the courage to stand up when it matters, the ability to navigate complex legal battles, and the willingness to fight for justice in the face of adversity. She leans forward slightly. "Your Honor, the law is meant to serve the people, not to be guarded by gatekeepers who judge worth by pedigree. If the courts become exclusive clubs, the public loses trust and justice itself is undermined." The courtroom listens in rapt silence as Jasmine's words echo with purpose. "I do not need an elite title to validate my capability. The cases I've won, the lives I've changed, and the justice I've delivered speak louder than any credential." She fixes Roberts with unwavering eyes. "So I ask you, what truly defines a judge? Is it the school they attended or the justice they deliver?" The tension thickens. Roberts sits back, momentarily unprepared for the fierce defense. The courtroom feels the weight of Jasmine's challenge. The fight for legitimacy has just been redefined. Judge Roberts straightens his posture, his voice measured but firm as he replies, "Ms. Crockett, I respect your dedication and the work you've done. However, the judiciary has long upheld rigorous standards, not to exclude, but to ensure that those who interpret the law do so with the utmost precision and respect for precedent. He gestures toward the bench, emphasizing tradition. This court is entrusted with decisions that affect the entire nation. It is imperative that judges possess not only experience, but also a deep understanding shaped by years of training at institutions that have refined legal thought. Roberts continues, these standards are not arbitrary. They are the backbone of our judicial system. While your efforts in public defense are commendable, they do not substitute for the comprehensive preparation that shapes a Supreme Court justice. He narrows his eyes slightly. The public's confidence depends on the court's ability to remain impartial and consistent. That consistency stems from the shared foundation that these educational and professional paths provide. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Roberts looks toward Jasmine, challenging her silently. I ask again, how can you assure this court and the public that your career has prepared you for this immense responsibility? Though his voice remains steady, there is a subtle tension beneath. The cracks are beginning to show as Jasmine's words have unsettled the once confident judge. The battle for legitimacy is far from over, but the momentum is shifting. Jasmine's gaze sharpens as she addresses the court, her voice steady and unwavering. Judge Roberts, while I respect tradition, it cannot become a shield for exclusion. The legal profession, and especially the judiciary, must reflect the reality of those it serves. Too often, the so-called rigorous standards protect privilege rather than promote justice. She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. I have witnessed firsthand how talented lawyers from less prestigious backgrounds are overlooked, dismissed simply because they don't fit the mold of elite. Yet it is these very lawyers who fight tirelessly for those who face injustice daily. Jasmine continues, in my career, I've stood up for tenants facing eviction without cause, for women denied equal pay, for families battling systemic failures. These are not theoretical cases. They are the lives behind the law. My preparation comes from this work, not just the letters after my name. Her tone grows firm. If the court continues to gatekeep based on pedigree, it risks alienating the very people who need justice most. The law must be a tool of fairness, not a fortress for the privileged. She looks directly at Roberts. So the real question isn't whether I meet traditional standards, but whether the court is willing to expand its definition of excellence to include service, courage, and impact. The courtroom sits in stunned silence. Jasmine's words challenge the foundation of the debate, turning the conversation from credentials to justice itself. Jasmine steps forward, voice strong and unwavering. Your Honor, let me be clear. My career is built on more than just words. I have litigated complex cases, won difficult battles, and fought powerful interests. These victories are documented, recognized, and respected by colleagues and clients alike. She pulls out a file, flipping it open. Here are court rulings that bear my name, cases where justice prevailed because I refused to back down. These aren't stories of privilege or convenience. They are battles fought in real courtrooms with real stakes. Her eyes lock with Roberts's. I invite you to review these records. Judge me by the outcomes I've achieved, not by the schools I attended or the connections I lack. Jasmine's tone sharpens. The law is not a club reserved for a select few. It is a promise to every citizen. And when those entrusted to uphold it reduce qualifications to pedigree alone, They betray that promise. She pauses, letting the words settle. So, if you question my ability, I challenge you to look beyond your assumptions and consider the true measure of a judge: integrity, resilience, and a record of fighting for justice. The courtroom is silent, the weight of her challenge pressing down on Roberts and the bench. The battle lines are drawn, and the stakes have never been higher. Judge Roberts shifts in his seat, a subtle change in demeanor betraying his usual composure. Ms. Crockett, your dedication and accomplishments are not in question. Yet, the judiciary's foundation relies on standards developed over centuries to preserve consistency and fairness. He gestures toward the bench. These standards ensure that those who interpret the law possess a uniformity of training and experience, providing the public confidence in the court's decisions. Without such consistency, the integrity of the judiciary risks fragmentation. Roberts's voice steadies, but the strain is apparent. It is not about exclusion, but about safeguarding the principles that have guided this institution since its inception. Your work in the trenches is commendable, but the responsibilities here require a broader legal perspective. He looks directly at Jasmine. I urge you to understand the gravity of the role and the reasons for these traditions. It is not personal, it is institutional. A few murmurs ripple through the courtroom. Roberts's words, though carefully measured, reveal a tension beneath the surface, a recognition that his stance may no longer fully hold sway in the face of Jasmine's challenge. Jasmine rises slightly, voice calm yet resolute. Judge Roberts, tradition has its place, but it must never be used to block progress or silence voices who fight for justice beyond the walls of elitism. She steps forward, addressing the room. The law is not static. It evolves with the people it serves. When courts cling rigidly to outdated standards, they risk becoming irrelevant, disconnected from the very citizens they are meant to protect. Her gaze fixes firmly on Roberts. Justice is not measured by where a judge studied, but by how fiercely they defend fairness and equality. It is measured by their willingness to listen, learn, and serve all Americans, not just those privileged enough to walk a certain path. Jasmine's tone sharpens. I stand here as proof that excellence comes in many forms and that the judiciary must open its doors to those who bring lived experience and unyielding commitment, not just pedigrees. She lets the words hang. If this court truly values justice, it will embrace change rather than fear it, because justice delayed by exclusion is justice denied. The courtroom absorbs her words, the debate now clearly a crossroads between preserving tradition and pursuing true justice. Jasmine's voice takes on a deeper, more personal tone as she continues. Your Honor, I have faced hurdles that no diploma can prepare you for, barriers built not by lack of knowledge, but by prejudice and preconceived notions about who deserves a seat at this table. She pauses, then continues with quiet strength. Every case I've handled was not just a legal battle. It was a fight against a system that often favors the privileged. I've stood up for single mothers struggling to keep their homes, workers denied fair wages, and communities ignored by those in power. Jasmine looks directly at Judge Roberts. It is easy to talk about tradition when you sit comfortably behind a bench. But for those of us who come from different paths, justice means breaking down walls, not building new ones. Her words resonate through the courtroom. If we are to be true to the principles of this country, then the judiciary must reflect its diversity, not only in race and gender, but in experience and resilience. She draws a deep breath. Judge Roberts, the question isn't whether I fit the old mold. The question is whether the mold itself is broken. Jasmine reaches into her briefcase and pulls out a thick folder, placing it firmly on the table. Your Honor, if there is any doubt about my qualifications, I present this record for your review. She flips through the documents with purpose. This file contains case rulings, appellate decisions, and letters of commendation from colleagues and clients alike. It reflects years of hard work, dedication, and proven success. Jasmine fixes her gaze on Roberts. I challenge you and this court to examine not just my education, but my impact. Every case here represents real people whose lives were changed because of the justice we fought for. Her tone grows firmer. It is easy to judge by pedigree, but much harder to judge by results. I ask you to do the latter. She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. If the court is serious about justice, then let actions speak louder than credentials. The courtroom is silent, the challenge hanging heavily in the air. Roberts looks visibly unsettled for the first time. Jasmine stands tall, her voice clear and unwavering as she delivers her closing statement. Judge Roberts, this court's strength lies not in the names on diplomas or the schools attended, but in the courage to seek true justice, regardless of background or pedigree. She pauses, letting the words resonate throughout the courtroom. I am here to remind this institution and the nation that justice is not reserved for the privileged few. It is a right owed to every citizen, and it demands that we judge not by titles, but by the lives we change. Jasmine's gaze sweeps across the room. If this court fears change, it risks losing its relevance. But if it embraces those who bring resilience, experience, and heart, it will become stronger than ever. The courtroom remains silent, the impact of her words settling like a heavy weight. Even Judge Roberts remains motionless, the challenge laid bare and undeniable. Jasmine sits, her message clear. She has not only defended her career, but reshaped the very conversation about what it means to serve justice. The battle may be over, but the movement she sparked is only just beginning.